Hi, it's Toby from Heavyweight MMA. Today with pro MMA featherweight fighter El Pantera Negra, Diego Pereira. How are you, man?
What's good, Toby? I'm doing well, and you?
I'm great, man. Man, you should be in the thick of things. You got a fight coming up in mid-September. How's your training going right now?
Oh my goodness, it's going amazing. We're 2 weeks out. I feel like $1 million. I'm on a new level, and I can't wait to display.
Man, everyone says that, but really 2 weeks out, you'd be feeling pretty beat up, right? You're kind of at that stage where you pushed your body to the limit, getting ready to go, and then you'll start to back off soon, right?
That's true. That's true. I mean, but when you ask me, I'm not thinking of those things because they're kind of negative ones. And you feeling beat up all that. I don't focus on that. That's less like a constant throughout training camp. That's just something you live with as a martial artist. If you're training hard and you're working, you're living sore. That's just your lifestyle. You know what I mean? So you learn to adapt and adjust, and the body just kind of, is okay with it. But then I just focus, on the mental side of things, which is where I'm at. I feel fantastic.
Yeah, man. So what sort of things do you kind of keep in your head? What's your sort of psychological preparation at this point? Like just trying to keep your mind away from the fatigue and keeping the mind positive for the fight.
I just keep focusing on the work day by day, day by day, and obviously trying to listen to the body as much as possible. Not doing anything crazy and stupid. We're smart. I have a team of professionals around me who's there to guide me day by day, and I'm also wise to listen to my body. I've done it for a few years now, to where I know how much I can push, and every time I'm getting a little bit better, I can push a little bit more. I'm getting a little bit better condition and things of that nature. So you just keep focusing on the work and why you do it for. And for me, it is a matter of just trying to push the envelope a little bit more, trying to see how much more I can do, how much better I can get, how the work I do can influence others to make themselves better. And that's really my mission for me as a martial artist. So really that's what I focus on day by day.
Man, you mentioned about like I kind of implied about overtraining and that. Like in the past, everyone would just train just hard, smash themselves, and not really thinking about rest and recovery and that. Nowadays, people think a bit more about that. For you, what sort of red flags do you look for that would indicate you maybe need to ease off a little bit in your training, or take a bit of a rest day or anything like that?
Um, a red flag would be if I am showing up to training, I'm not able to focus. If I get there and my mind's not being focused, and that's a rare occasion. But if I get to a session and I'm like not focusing on what's going on and I'm not fully in present, then I know I'm like, ooh, maybe I've done too much today already, or something like that, or maybe I didn't sleep well that day, or something of that nature. But those really are the main red flags. If I'm feeling something that's been bothering me, say, like an injury that was like small, but then hasn't gone away as quickly as you expected, and that's still lingering around. So you have to start thinking, okay, well, maybe I need to take a step back off of doing this so that this thing can heal, and then work on this side of things. If the legs are sore, then you kind of move towards the upper body, work on the hands, or there's always something that you can do. If the body's totally trashed, then you just take that day off. Because it's the thing about development and evolution is the work. So you do the work. It's the stress of the work that's going to force your body to adapt. And so in order for the body to adapt, you need to rest. So stress plus rest equals the adaptation. My dietitian and all the guys that work around me, they always tell me about these things. So I've learned that a lot. And so I know if I need to rest, doesn't mean, oh, I'm not improving. That's when I'm improving. You know what I mean? All the work I'm doing, training 2-3 times a day, every single day. Um, just the 8 hours sleep overnight, it may not be enough. You know what I'm saying, for the body to adapt. So if you have to take an extra day off here and there, I don't even think like, oh, I can't do that. But I know that that's good for me, and so I just work on the mind or something. Watch film and all these other things that you can do. So yeah.
Makes sense, man. I was listening to Sean O'Malley's coach the other day, talking with their someone who does their blood work and talks with them about nutrition and stuff, and he was saying that refueling and resting and the recovery between sessions needs to be back to, like, you need to be pretty much back to 100%, because if you go into the next session, like if you do in the morning, you don't have enough adequate rest and fuel to get into the next one. If you're at 80%, you can only perform at 80%. You know, if you're at 50% recovery, you can only perform at 50%. It's directly correlated. Kind of interesting way to think of it, right? Because you usually, for you, man, you can't be adequately fully recovered all the time. So you're probably just trying to be as recovered as possible to go into the next session and actually benefit from it, right?
Yeah, man, that's the thing, right? Like it's we want to work so much, we want to improve. For me, that is, I want to always be in the gym and improving, trying to seek what's the next thing I could do, what else could I be doing to improve. You know, and most of the time those things end up being physical things, and obviously that requires energy. So the body can only take so much at certain times, depending on what kind of load you put in onto it that day or that week, how long, how consistent you've been. So it can take a toll. So you gotta be smart and listen. And like I said, I've done it for a few years now that I'm very very comfortable within my body, and I know when I'm pushing, when I'm not, and when to go and when to not. So yeah.
All right, man. Hey, we better jump onto your fight quickly before we kick on with a bit more. So, 16th of September, Eternal 69, Diego Pereira versus Alan Philpott. How you feel you're shaping up for the fight, man?
I'm shaping up great. I feel like this is a great matchup. I'm looking forward to it. You know, he's a guy who's got a lot of experience. He's faced a ton of opponents overseas, and he's been in different organizations. And I'm looking forward to that matchup because for me, like I've faced a lot of tough guys, the best of the best in Australia and New Zealand. I've been doing it for years. I've been overseas as well, training some of the best. I know where I stand, you know, in the world class scene. So I believe I'm a world class athlete, and I'm going to show it. You know, September 16th, I'm going to show how we measure up, and I'm going to put this guy away.
Man, let me know, what do you think of his strengths?
I look. I think he's a good striker. You know, he's a guy who can you know, like I said, he's got many fights. So to get to that kind of experience, you're not dumb. You know, it requires a certain level of fight IQ. So I believe he has a good fight IQ. He's been in there many times, more than I have. So that's, I believe, his strengths lie. You know, he's an experienced dude. He's not just gonna give positions easily. He's not just gonna lay there and pray, which is what I'm hoping he does. You know, I hope that he can last and that we give the people a show because man, I'm ready. I'm ready to really showcase all my talents and all the work I put in over years and years. And he's a guy that can really bring it out of me because he's experienced and he knows how to work in the cage, you know. So I look forward to that battle.
And what do you think of his fight with Justin Van Heeden, man? What were you thinking in that after watching that fight?
Man, I was cage side for that. And I was commentating, doing a little bit of breakdown for that thing, and you know, I don't even know what to think about that fight. Both, I've fought Van Heerden in the past. I've trained with him for years. I know where I stand with that guy, and to see Alan go in and him having had so much experience and go in there and perform like that, um, who knows? He could have been rust that he was out for a few years. I don't know, but to me, it didn't look impressive at all. So I hope the time off I've since then he's done some work and then being back in has kind of lit a fire under him or something. He's been disciplined and if he's done some work, we're gonna have a good show.
Yeah, man. I heard you say that you feel that in general he would be thinking that you've got the grappling wrestling advantage, but you also plan to surprise him in the striking area, right?
Absolutely, man. Look, I'm a full mixed martial artist. I love this game, and us both being, like I said, he's been around for a while. So I'm not saying he doesn't have the skills on the ground or the grappling or anything like that. We're full mixed martial artists. I just believe I'm better, and I will show that.
Yeah, bro. And looking at your record, man, there's a couple of reds, losses in the last two fights, but they're not really losses in a way, right? Like obviously the last one was an accidental illegal elbow just during the heat of things. And Rod Costa fight, man, it was you were beaten, but you weren't really beaten, if you know what I mean. Like it was
Yeah,
you probably dished out maybe more of a beating at the end of the day, but
yeah, yeah.
were beaten by the grappling of Costa, right?
Of course, yeah. No, Costa is a very good guy on the ground, and of course we knew that going in. It was just a circumstances of the situation. I was preparing for a bantamweight title fight. I had been in camp for like over 8 weeks, and then cutting weight and all that stuff. I hadn't been down to bantamweight in years, so it was a tough camp for me. I was miserable during that time. And then 2 weeks out, the then champion pulls out. So then I'm like, fuck, I've done all this work. I need to compete. I want to compete. Find me somebody else. And they gave me the option to sit or compete. I chose to compete. I'm a competitor. With each fight, I get better. So I need to get in there and do my work, for me and for my coaches to represent myself and keep upskilling and keep moving up, like no matter what it is on the line. And I took the risk and it happened how it happened.
And then Rod also had a fight with Jack Jenkins, who you also fought. What do you think about that one, man? That was pretty
That
tough
was a
fight
good
for Rod.
scrap. Rod is tough as hell. He took so much damage and still was there the whole fight. It just showed how skilled Jack Jenkins is, and now he got the shot at the UFC contender. So that's good. That's good
Yeah,
for him.
man. Looking forward to Jack's fight actually, and it's good for you guys too to kind of gauge. You'll see how he'll perform and gauge your own chances up there as well, right?
Of course, of course. It's all good for everyone involved. Because I feel like the more any one of us can get out there and get exposed to the big shows. I mean, for me, I want to get there as well, and a lot of all these other guys want to as well. So if one of us get there, then it just kind of reinforces the idea that we believe that we can also get there. So it's good. It brings attention to the market in Australia. It showcases the level of the skill we have and the talent we have here. And so it's good for everybody. So I'm looking forward to seeing him going out there and doing well as well.
That's it, man. Hey, wanted to jump back, way back. You give us your story, bro. So originally you are from Brazil, born and raised in. I'm not sure. I've read a couple of different things. One said you are from Aracatuba. The other one said Guararape. So what's the story, bro? Where are you from? And give us a little brief of how you came up.
Yeah, man. So look, I was born in Aracatuba, and then still very young, moved to Guararapes, which is like a neighboring town, um, in the same state of São Paulo. São Paulo is this huge city and state, and so I come from this inner city of Aracatuba, born there, and then raised in Guararapes, and then did my thing over there, raised in poverty on the streets or whatever. Was a happy kid, and then 16 years old, I got the opportunity to come to Australia, and then been here since. And I'm been here for over 14 years.
Man, what's the feeling for someone to be raised over there? Like you said, a bit of poverty around, relatively difficult life, then move over to Australia, which is relatively well off, right? Like it's
Mm,
pretty easy to survive and live in Australia, right?
right. Oh man, it was a world of difference. There's Brazil still considered a third world country when it should. We have everything to be, one of the best, but it is. And so Australia is the first world country, and so when I got the opportunity to come, I was in Brazil. I wasn't doing too much. I was a young kid, 16, not many opportunities, only seeing things through a television and kind of admiring the athletes and the people doing well and all that stuff, and not really believing that that could be possible for me. Why? Because all my surroundings didn't indicate that that was possible for me. You know, and so when my uncle came to Australia to work, because he was a skilled worker in the meat industry, being a boner and slicer in beef production. At the time, Australia was in need of skilled workers in the area. So they started sponsoring people from all over the world. They brought people in from Russia, Brazil, Vietnam, all these different countries. So anyway, my uncle was doing that job in Brazil. He got the opportunity to come and establish himself here. And shortly after, maybe a couple of years in, he brought my brother and myself in as dependent children. So that was when a real turning point, because obviously when my uncle moved over, he realized, wow, this is amazing. I can really change my family's life and my own life. And so if I can have the opportunity to bring these guys in, they can change their own lives, etc. And we can start a whole new, pattern of things, and not just stay in the same generation after generation poverty, and then ending up in prison and doing all the bad wrong things. He brought us here. He realized the opportunities that we had here, and so for us, it was like, wow, this is the whole. When I moved here, my whole perspective changed. Because all of a sudden, I went from not having a good surrounding of successful people to having all these different stories of success of people from all over the world that could influence me. And then I started martial arts, and from then on, I'm like, wow, I'm a completely different person.
Yeah, I found it kind of interesting too that you kind of touched on a couple of things, a bit of capoeira and kung fu in Brazil, but you didn't know much about MMA or BJJ, and then you were inspired by someone over in Australia talking about MMA and Van Anderson Silva, right? And that sort of kicked
Yeah,
off your interest.
that's right, man. That's right. So in Brazil, young kid, they had all these little social projects in the city to keep kids off the streets. And my father was a master of capoeira for a while. He taught that, but by the time we were old enough, he had some injuries and he couldn't really teach no more. So we really missed out on learning from my own father this beautiful martial art. But we did go to these social projects and learned like that. So for a few months we did that. But again, I didn't develop that discipline to be consistent with it, which is unfortunate. But I did on and off capoeira, kung fu, judo, and here and there. Very active kid, played soccer, had a dream to be one player at one point, and all these different things growing up in Brazil, of course. And then once I moved to Australia, working side by side with this other Brazilian guy, he knew of MMA, he knew of Anderson Silva. I wasn't aware yet. And so he started telling me, he's like, man, do you watch the UFC? You know this guy, Anderson Silva? He's just killing it. He was dominant at the time, in his prime. And then that's what triggered my interest. And then that night, I went home and then started researching. And that's really how my journey started, from my friend telling me, this is awesome. Like, why don't you do it? And I was like, I was just doing some gym work at the time, just regular gym stuff. And I was like, okay, well, why don't I do? So I started researching, and shortly after that, I joined the gym and started doing jujitsu and Muay Thai.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. And it's interesting too how you've actually trained across a couple of gyms, and you even mentioned that your current gym are kind of opened. You're doing a little bit of cross training and that, and so you were training around some different gyms in Queensland, and then you actually also went back to Brazil at Nova Uniao, obviously super famous gym, Jose Aldo, etc.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned that the experience wasn't quite as good as you maybe thought. The environment you didn't really like. Can you talk on that a bit?
Man, I enjoyed the gym. It was good. It was just, I felt as though, it's like when you leave your camp over here in home, we're not very big. We don't have many celebrity fighters. There's not that much attention, but there's a good group of guys. So we get a lot more focused attention on ourselves because we're a smaller group, and that's how we do our work. So then I left seeking higher levels, but then you get there, they already have way more people and all these established UFC fighters. So obviously they're not going to be paying so much attention to you because they've got their world champions here to worry about. So then you end up being sort of on the back foot. So I felt like I was starting over, and for that period, though I was learning, I was enjoying it. I got to share the space with them and spar, etc. For that while it was good, but I felt as though I was taking a few steps back. So then, I was in Rio on my own. I just really didn't like that vibe. Too many people, too crowded. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go back. So I, took it for what it was, got the experience, and then came back home. And that's when I went to the US to train over there at Jackson Wink.
Yeah, man. People, what you just mentioned before, people talk about that. Like some people say, oh, why are you training that small gym when you can go to one of these big gyms? And that one of the good reasons to be training in the smaller gyms with a bit more focus that you actually get attention, right? There's not a stable of 50 MMA fighters that are professional that all need to get attention, and so they're really going to be able to focus on you. I think that's a good point. Hey.
Absolutely, man. That's huge, So if I've been with my head coaches, Paul Stoyer and Uncle Des, for ever since I started, and those guys molded and shaped my skills and everything. So I never for one moment think of leaving. It's just like, okay, well, why not go try and just kind of experience that for a little bit? Why not go here and experience that for a little bit? My coaches are open to that, but knowing that, they know I know where home is, and so every time I went over, seas. I trained there, did sort of a little bit of camp, but then came home, and then we got a fight, and then they were my head coaches. We went to battle together. So yeah, man, it's very valuable to have a small group of guys, dedicated individuals who are on the same path as you, and of course you have your head coaches there and everybody guiding you. It's much better, I feel, than being in a, you know, big gym with many UFC athletes that are already established, and their coaches won't really be paying attention to you. So you probably end up doing training on your own or something, you know? So I don't really like that.
Yeah, man. And you just mentioned Jackson Wink MMA, obviously, Greg Jackson, Mike Winklejohn's gym. So many stars come out of there, man. John
Yeah.
Jones, there's so many, Cerrone, Andrei Arlovsky. I mean, there's so many guys that come out of there, right? How was it
Yeah.
training there? And was that the same sort of case that you didn't really get the attention that you would have liked?
Jackson Wink, it was a different experience because they had dorm rooms within the gym, and so they have like this huge gym, and they had dorm rooms in the gym. And though Greg Jackson and Lincoln John are known for being the head coaches, obviously their names are in the gym. There are other coaches there that are just as high level, man, that don't get as much credit as they should. Maybe they aren't as recognized as Greg and Winkle John, but these are former fighters that have been at it for years and years. Former Olympic, athletes, judo champions, and wrestlers and things of that nature, and other high level fighters that have come from other parts of the world, etc. And so these people are all living there, staying there, like 20, 30 guys at one time. So it was slightly different because though the highly ranked guys, the big name fighters, etc., got most of the attention from Greg and them, the other coaches and the former fighters, they were still available. So you could do lessons with them, you could train with the other fighters that were living there at the same time. So it was a different vibe, and I feel that I did a lot of growth. I had a lot of growth in training at Jackson Wink. I spent, a good solid time there. I used to go back and forth to camp, come back, and I spent a good over a year over there training with those guys and developed some lifelong friendships. And yeah, they were very valuable in my development.
Awesome, man. What I was reading though, you said that in that place, sometimes that may have been the location felt a bit unsafe, like some weird people there, quote some crazy motherfuckers around.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
what was that about, bro?
Oh man, it was because dorm rooms. So for me, that was my first experience. I never been to college or anything, so I never shared a space with so many other random people other than family, and some friends or whatever for a day or two. But I had to live with people that I didn't know at all, that came from different parts of the world, whatever. So that was some shady looking dudes, guys with that had been to prison, things of that nature, things that these guys, I can read people really well. So around me, whenever I had like six other guys in the same room, like you had to keep keep your eyes at the back of your head at the same time. You know what I mean? And watch your surroundings. So I was being cautious, and it was just some moments where because when you have six dudes or whatever in the same room, energies and egos and all that stuff can arise, and shit can get a little bit uncomfortable. But it wasn't anything like, oh, I feel for my life, nothing like that. It was just, hey man, there's other people's out there, everybody trying to be alpha. Shit can pop off at any moment. You gotta fucking be ready, at all times. So watch your back. So that was just really what it was. Some guys were giving off some a weird vibe, and you just kind of gotta be attuned to it.
Did you have any interaction with John Jones at all?
Yeah, man. John took some classes every now and then. This was when he was still there, that is. This was a while, yeah, a few years back. But yeah, I did have an interaction. He used to take classes. He was still preparing for fights, and that was a good period. I took a pic with him. He's a cool dude, man. Cool dude.
Yeah, man. So he cops so much shit, right? Obviously, because he's in the limelight. He's human. He's made a lot of mistakes, but he's only human, right? What do you think he's like as a general sort of person? How do you feel having actually interacted with him rather than just being an internet critic? You know?
Yeah, yeah. Listen, it's always a hard one, right? Think about it. John Jones is like an alien, basically, because how many people get to experience becoming a world champion at such a young age, like he did? 23, I think he was, became the world UFC champion, became famous, and then get all this attention, all this money, all this stuff. Like it can be hard to know, and then not all of a sudden people start loving you for no reason, nobody fucking checking you for stuff because you're the world champ, you're the guy, you're unbeaten, so it becomes weird, like your surrounding becomes weird. So I can understand and kind of put myself in this place. But the experience I had with him tells me that he's just, again, like you said, he's a human being with flaws like everyone else, and sometimes he slipped up, and I feel part of the reason why that happened was because he became champion and famous so young, and that kind of clouded his judgment, and shit can happen that way. So, but he's a good guy, man. Good guy.
Right. Man, I also heard you talk about CKB Gym, man. Like obviously the hottest gym in the Oceania sort of region these days with multiple champions and some other great fighters in the big show. You mentioned that you'd like to head over there and do some training. Is that something that's happened or something that you're really thinking about doing in the future?
It hasn't happened yet, but yeah, it's definitely a possibility, man. Because look, I have many links, like many people that I know. For example, my coach, Uncle Des, he is directly comes from that lineage, from the same lineage as Eugene Behrman, the head coach of City Kickboxing. They used to train together. They know each other. It's a strong lineage. So that's my head coach, striking coach, Uncle Des.
Did
So he
he,
said,
did he
look,
train
whenever you
at?
want to go.
Sorry, did he train at Balmoral Liga or something?
I'm not sure. Oh,
Sure.
he's been all over. I just know that they train together. He
Yeah.
knows Eugene from way back, and and Eugene. I've met Eugene, cool, very good guy, and they're all martial artists, man. So I love that. I love that they have so many guys there, and it's like next door. So it's a no-brainer for me to get out there and train, and when I know so many people there already as well. So it will happen eventually. Just don't know when.
Yeah, man. It was funny because I was watching your fights just in preparation, and the thought crossed my mind that your style is a style that could kind of adapt a little bit and probably learn a little bit from the CKB guys. I was actually thinking that. I even wrote it down. And then I took listen to some interviews, and you were saying that very thing that you'd like to train with them. The only problem with them is they're like for you and to go there and learn, like they have a system, you know what I mean? So guys can't really just go there for like a couple of weeks or a month or whatever and come back and learn the system, if you know what I mean. It's something that takes a
Right.
long, long time. So I just wondered, like, would you just be going there for a short term type of thing just to get a feeling from these guys, get some high level sparring, learn a couple little tricks, or would you actually be trying to do a long term stint there to really try and pick up their system?
Yeah. Sorry, that was a interruption there. Somebody called me. I would be happy just to go and train it, just to get levels of exposure, just like I did at Jackson Wink. I spent 3 months of time, 6 months of time, or something of that nature. Go do camp, come back. I don't think I'm gonna go establish myself there. Sorry, establish myself there to and make it a permanent camp or anything like that. I would just go simply because they have lots of high level guys there, and it'd be good exposure for me.
Yeah, it's pretty good, man. I dropped down there to have a look, and yeah, they got some great talent there, man. Even not the guys we know, yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, bro. So looking at your own style, man, like what sort of things do you think are there for you to improve? Obviously, everyone can improve certain parts of their game. What are the sort of things that you'd like to improve in your own game?
Man, my goal since the beginning has always been to become the most well-rounded fighter I can become in MMA, because I started doing MMA. My first two were Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai, and wrestling came later, and all these other things I've done. Um, but the goal is just to keep improving, keep making everything better, equally better. I never do one thing more than the other thing. I always try to make sure that everything is coming up elevated together and becoming rounded. None of my skills are at zero. I feel like a world class athlete at all levels. I'm close to getting my black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I've been training Muay Thai for over a decade. Wrestling is there. So all of these, man, I just keep improving and making myself better every day, and being like, okay, this fight, I kind of lacked a little bit of wrestling. The defense wasn't here. This happened, that happened. These provide clues for what to kind of focus on next. So that's how we do. Go into a fight. Okay, this happened, that happened. Okay, let's work on that. So then we go back to the drawing board, we work on those things, and then we get better at it. And so it's that's how it goes. With each fight provides you an opportunity for growth, and that's really what helps us to improve. So I'm not really um, thinking about, okay, what can I work on today. I'm just really working on improving every day, every single aspect of my game.
That's good, man. Hey, just out of interest, when I watched you, I was just thinking, like I said, I was kind of thinking in terms of that CKB sort of style. And if you compare yourself to someone like Israel Adesanya, obviously Israel, top of his game, he's got his own thing. He's obviously a striker at heart. Um, what what would you be able to learn from a guy like that or adapt from that sort of style? Are there any things that he does that you would like to be able to do that you could bring into your game? Just out of interest.
Yeah, man, for sure. I feel really just the way he looks at the fights, like the distance management is something I've always been huge on. Mike, like I said, my coach Uncle that's his thing. The distance, the distance, the distance, the distance. We want to be able to be out here. We want to use the full range of our limbs, etc. Be on the outside, pick this guy and move, not be there. That's what Israel is about. So I love watching his style because he's always moving. He's never static in one place. He's analyzing you, he's looking, and then he's switching, and then he's here, and then he gets you to move into a spot that he created, and then pops you, and then he's out. So that's a high level of distance management and fight IQ and things that he's honed over years and years and years and years and years of kickboxing and stuff. So and beautiful genetics as well. So I believe I've got amazing genetics within me as well, and I just keep looking to bring more of that out with each battle that I have, and each day I go into the gym, I just look to explore and just push myself so that I can keep getting better.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, it's funny because you kind of took the words right out of my mouth, man. Because I was thinking exactly what you're saying, man. Like you're a gifted athlete. You move very very well, and that's why I'm comparing you to someone like Israel because you've got a couple of the attributes that he has in your athleticism and some of your movement as well. But you know what? Exactly what I had written down is talking about CKB, and I wrote down distance management and lateral movement, bro. Exactly what you just said, distance management. And that's what I was thinking is you wade straight in a little bit more than those guys do. And I think that's something that you could probably bring into the game. Would it be a crowd pleasing thing? Maybe not, because people love the way you fight is walking straight in, right? Like you get into the middle range, you like that middle range and that's where you sit. But if you could incorporate a little bit more of that distance, long range, I think that would work to your benefit, personal benefit? Would it work to the crowd and Eternal's benefit or whoever? I'm not sure, but it's just something I was thinking when I'm watching, just as my brain's ticking over. Yeah, but it's funny you said exactly what I had written down, so it's kind of cool.
Well, yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. Listen, I'm a mixed martial artist. I adapt to the opponent and the occasion as well. If you go back and watch some fights, I feel like I'm a different fighter every time, depending on who I'm fighting and what I need to impose onto these guys to be able to be successful. Some fighters they provide different set of challenges, which the distance management might not apply to every single person and their skills and stuff like that. So with each fight is different. So depending on who it is, we might have to wrestle them more. We might have to get close. We might have to keep the distance and mix everything up. So I'm a mixed martial artist, so I like to keep people on their toes and be like, what is he gonna do today?
Yeah, yeah. Man, I've talked to I haven't talked to a Brazilian fighter before, bro, anyone with a Brazilian background.
Uh,
But talked to a lot of guys with European backgrounds from Australia. And then I've talked to a lot of Pacific Islanders from New Zealand and Australia. And I'm kind of interested in your take on the Brazilian heritage and the background in relation to fighting, because obviously the world has, millions of great fighters in the history of fighting from Brazil. What do you think it is about the, Brazilian culture that lends itself to, fighting and successful fighters?
wow, that's a good question. That's a very good, deep question. I like it. Listen, and I believe it's just the people and the culture that we have there and where we come from, based on lots of slaves and people migrating there back in those days and all those different European people, Portugal, and all those different things. I feel like it's such a great mix of cultures and genes that made it like a warrior country, a group of people that really started off with the slaves, and they developed the capoeira and so forth, and then Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and then all these different martial arts that we have in Brazil. I think it's just we are a fighting spirit. Like we love to fight because we've always had to fight hard to get somewhere. Whether that's fighting to develop a business, fighting to do well in school, fighting to not get caught in the streets doing something wrong, just fighting to change the narrative that you're just going to be another guy that's just going to be the same as the other guy. You know what I mean? You're not going to become anything in life. Like you just always fighting. And from the day you're born, you're fighting, especially if you're a black person in Brazil. You know what I'm saying? So I believe it's just ingrained in everybody's genetics from the day you're born. You just carry that with you. Like I said, and this is I feel tremendously like privileged and like grateful to be able to be here, representing my country and my people, and trying my best to bring out these beautiful genetics that I have and talents that I have within me, and see how much more I can do.
That's good, man. I heard someone ask you if you'd like to fight in Brazil. I sort of wanted to know, more interested in like internationally, your goals and that, because you're fighting mostly locally. Do you have aspirations to hit the big league and hit certain organizations and fight internationally? I imagine it's a yes, but what are your thoughts on that?
Man, I of course, yeah, trying to get to the world stage, be recognized and do it big, and not for the recognition, but it's nice to be recognized, but also just so that I can represent my people, represent my coaches, do well, and showcase my skills, my family, everybody on the world stage globally. And I've been doing that very well locally and internationally as well. I'm well known, but to be able to get into the UFC and just fight in Brazil one day, come back over here fighting in the UFC, go wherever, really. My dream as a martial artist is just to travel the world and compete and showcase my skills, give people entertainment, and I just continuously, make my coaches proud, make myself proud, and just keep going out there and creating beautiful entertainment and showcasing martial arts skills, and just keep taking it to the next level. So I definitely want to take it globally.
And to do that, bro, what's the plan? What's your goals, man? Short term, long term goals, like this year, next year. How are you going to get there?
So listen, I'm already on that path. I've been on that path, and each day is a step closer. So my next assignment is in 2 weeks. I'll get that done, and that puts me closer to that title shot. Once to eternal. Once I get that shot, I will get that title. I aim to get it by the end of the year and become a champion. Close out the year as a champion of eternal, and then there'll be more eyeballs on myself, and that will get us closer to potentially getting a UFC contender call up or something of that nature. But listen, that's outside of my control, right? All I can control is obviously setting those goals, setting the aim. But what I really can control is how much I work and what I do to get myself there. And these things are being done day by day. Like I said, it's a step closer each day, and that's what I'm doing.
All right, man. Perfect. Looking forward to your fight on 16th of September, man. I'll be watching and hoping you get the win, man. And yeah, best of luck with your goals for the future, and hope I can keep in touch and have a talk about any upcoming fights, whatever.
Listen, Toby, I appreciate your time, man. You're doing great things out there, and I love the effort that you went, out of your way, putting the backdrop there to represent the gym and all that stuff. You're a good dude, and you definitely know your stuff. And I love the questions. I love the time you put in, and I look forward to speaking to you in the future as well.
Cool. All right, man. Thanks for your time. Cheers.
Thanks, bro.